Thank you for joining me here today for the Daycare Q&A Show. My name is Adrienne Bradley, and I'm your host. And thank you for joining me here today. Today is December 6th, 2023, and this is episode 23 of the Daycare Q&A Show. And again, thanks for joining me here today. I have to tell you, I'm having one of those frazzled days, so if I start to talk slower, it's because I want to make sure I'm not getting lost in my thoughts. But anyway, I have to say, if you are joining me for the first time today, welcome. I reset that. And if you're coming back, welcome back. I am having the best time with this show, and I really enjoy when you show up live with me, but I know that you're super busy, so if you're catching this on replay, please just leave a comment to say hi, and because I would love to say hi to you. And if you are joining me live here today, please send me some hearts and likes. I'm going to do what I've been doing for a while now, which is to have my laptop open and to try and catch any comments over there, because the dashboard is not Adrienne friendly, let's just say that. So anyway, so let's see, I've got that open, and yeah, okay, so I'm gonna be looking at my notes here. Let's see. Oh, so today I was able to get my two dogs outside, so they shouldn't be a distraction to me. You shouldn't hear them jingling in the back. You might hear them bark outside, but it shouldn't be as loud as if they barked inside. So anyway, secondly, I always start off the show by saying that any of the questions that are addressed here on the show and any of the advice or comments that I make are from my own experience being a childcare provider for over 20 years, and they're either drawn from my experience or situations I've found myself in, or someone close to me. And I can tell that this screen is a bit static, so I am gonna shut down some other stuff and see if that helps. Hopefully my internet is not going to be crazy today. So anyway, yeah, so it's drawn from either my experience or providers, fellow providers that I know and I'm close to, their experience. So, but I know that this is your business, and if it works for you, then great. If it doesn't, take what works and leave the rest. It's probably for someone else. The whole reason for the show here is to just give you a different perspective on something that you might be dealing with or you might deal with in the future, to give you some different angle to maybe think of it, because sometimes when we're in a situation we can't think of the best solution. And I don't know about you, but I love a rant, but a solution, I say this all the time, I love a rant, but a solution trumps a rant to me. A rant to me all the time. So that's what the show's about. But again, take what works, leave the rest for someone else. Okay? All right. Let's see. Oh, and I almost forget. Every week I almost forget that if you are joining me here live, or if you're catching this on replay and you have a question that isn't on the show, you can leave it in the comments and I will try and get to it during the show. And if you're catching this on replay, I will come back in and answer it there. Yeah. And let's see. Okay, and we have a weekly giveaway like we always do, and this is a twofer this week, so it's pretty exciting, but I'll get into that a little bit later in the show. Like I said, the show is live on Wednesdays, and then on Thursdays the replay is available on our YouTube channel, so you can catch it over there. If you don't make the whole show, or if you miss it or something, you can always get caught up over there. Okay? All right. Let's see what's going on in Thriving Childcare Universe. Okay, so today our episode is sponsored by the Provider Planner and Organizer. always go wrong direction. The provider planner and organizer, that's our luxury planner just for childcare providers. And I've been saying this for a while, and if you've been caught up on your episodes, you know you hear this from me every week. But now is the best time to get your planner. We are already in December, and you know as well as I do that it is going to go full force, and we're going to look up, and it is going to be New Year's Day. So this month, it just flies by. It flies by. And I want you to be prepared, like I'm trying to get prepared for a great 2024 and the plans that I have for both my business and my personal life. And now's the time before we really get into the crunch a little bit later in the month, to get your plans down and to at least get first quarter what you want to do in your business, what you're obligated to do maybe in your personal life. And a planner is a great place to keep all of that in one place that you can access. So there's a link in the description for you to go over and check out the provider planner, and I have some news later on in the giveaway with regards to the planner, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, check out the provider planner and organizer. This is the best time of the year to get your plans in place because the new year's coming super fast. Okay. Let's see. Okay. And before we dive into the questions, I've been going to the planner and looking up what's upcoming in the coming week, so that if there's something that we can use to make a curriculum around, a project around, or maybe even a snack or something fun, that's what's in the planner. There's days that are just perfect for childcares to take advantage of and create new and exciting things. So anyway, so coming up on the 12th, I know today's just the 6th, but it's a perfect time to send out your Christmas and your New Year's reminders. So if you are taking off, which I'm going to presume you're taking off sometime, I hope you are, during these holidays, now's the perfect time to remind your clients. And, you know, I say this, I say this knowing that I'll probably get some pushback, because a lot of us providers, I totally agree that we do a lot. We probably do too much. But I found over the years, if I did a little extra, it benefited me just as much as it benefited my clients. And so when I say to send out reminders about your days off, or when tuition's due or something, and give your clients a heads up, it will in the end benefit you as well. And it's just a little something. You can send out a mass email, you can send out a mass text, you can put it in your newsletter, you can put a little sign up next to the sign-in sheet, whatever you choose to do, or a combination of all those things. I know I've done all of those things just to, you know, kind of, you know, we all got so much going on this month, and the parents are no exception. What would it hurt to just remind them, hey, listen, just a reminder, we will be closed the week of Christmas, or the week following Christmas, or both those weeks, or whatever. Excuse me. Just remind them, and at least you know that you did remind them. I've talked about how early on with my business, I didn't do that. It's not that I didn't want to, I just didn't think to do it. And I had people showing up on days that I was closed. And unfortunately, I did not have the backbone that I talk about now, that I have now, back then. And sometimes I would allow myself to get stuck and accept those children and not have that day off that I needed. So for me, it just worked out to remind them a couple weeks in advance, and that way I knew I had no remorse saying, okay, we are closed. I reminded you 2 weeks ago, and unfortunately we're not open today. So But we got a lot of questions today that surround the holidays, so I'm not going to stay on that too long. So let's jump into some of the questions here today, okay? First of all, I say this every week. If you do have a question, you can always leave it early for the show, and then when the show happens, then I can address it on the show, and you can catch it on replay just in case you can't join me live. But we did have a question that came in early, and the question was it was about getting paid on time and policies and procedures. Now, I'm going to presume that, and they left it anonymously, there's not a name. I'm going to presume that the policies and procedures they were referring to centered around getting tuition payment on time. But even if it didn't, when I start to talk about this in a moment, you'll see how it applies there and to all of your policies and procedures. So I have talked about this here on the show. I have talked about it on the blog. By the way, I'm the author of the Thriving Childcare blog, and there's a link in the show notes where you can go over and check out the blog. But on the blog for several years, I have covered issues centered around childcare tuition, getting tuition on time, policies and procedures around tuition. We even have several products in our shop to help track and stay on top of tuition matters. Now, that being said, I know it continues to be a problem for a lot of providers. Maybe they're newer providers, or maybe they're seasoned providers that just have allowed this to become something that continues in their business. And I say allow, not to place blame, but to say that I recognize that when it came to myself. I allowed, and I've talked about this many times, my tuition issues with my business to become a regular thing, and it got completely out of control. And I won't get into this story all over again, but I had a real awakening. I had somebody really open my eyes to realize I had to get this under control. And the first thing I had to do was to realize that I was part of the problem. And part of the problem meaning that I allowed this. I didn't correct it immediately. I let it go on until it became this huge problem. So, to this provider, to this anonymous provider, I would say, and I will go back and leave a link to an article on the blog that addresses this. But first of all, know that a lot of us go through this. A lot of us don't expect that we're going to have to deal with chasing tuition payments. At least that's where I found myself. And you can imagine the chaos that it creates if you don't get that under control. That is your income from your business. And if that is coming in wildly late or at random times, it's hard to, number one, track it. It's hard to it's really deflating, and it can be frustrating, and it can add so much more stress to this business that already has enough of those elements, right? So I will leave a link to an article that is on the blog that talks about, well, several that talk about getting your tuition under control. And I think I get into my story and what helped me to realize that I had the problem I needed to fix first. But what I will say is what I was saying earlier. We're about to start a new year. If you don't have a policy or a procedure centered around when your tuition is due, how it's paid, where it's paid, and what happens if it isn't paid on time, then I would suggest you read the article and develop your policy before the new year. And I would suggest that you start off the new year with that policy. And what I was saying before about this applying to policies and procedures that go across your business is know that you are more than likely going to need to enforce it. You may not need to enforce it with every client that you have, but most of us have to enforce it with some of our clients. We might have to have that conversation. And I'm a big proponent of getting ahead of a problem. So I have a tuition agreement that is right in the contract. It is a separate sheet, so that, because I know that most of us, just human beings, don't read everything. And contracts, we really just barely even skim over. And I wanted to make sure that I highlighted this tuition issue, because that typically was a real sticking point. It was a problem, right? So I wanted to let my incoming clients know that this you should pay attention to. So on that page, they have to initial that they've read the page and sign off on it. Now, that still doesn't mean that they read it. That still doesn't mean they read it. However, I can point back to the fact that that's in the contract and they signed off on it, and that's what they agreed to. Okay? But it also, I think, starts the relationship off with them understanding my position, my strong position when it comes to tuition, how it's paid, when it's paid, all of that from the beginning. Okay? And like I said, it gives you something that you can refer back to, and it gives you a little bit more of a backbone to know that you have explained this. You have said this. They indicated they understood by their signature or their initials. Okay? So if you don't have that in place, I would say to start there. Okay? But again, understand you're more than likely going to have those conversations. Now, I do different things in my business that a lot of my colleagues and friends don't do. And that's fine. I just do, hey, Denitra. Denitra Scott is joining us. And that's fine. Like I said earlier, you need to do what works for your business. Another thing that worked for me was to remind them on Thursday. My tuition is due on Friday for next week's care. So it's due in advance on Friday for the following week. So on Thursday, I send out a mass text, and it says, "Don't forget, tuition's due tomorrow." I have most of my clients pay on a monthly basis, so right before the end of the month, I send out a mass text to say, if you pay monthly, don't forget, tuition is due on the 1st. Like I said, it might be a little bit more work, but once you get in the habit of doing it, you won't even think about it. But I'd rather do a little more work than a lot of more work chasing payments, getting into conversations that don't need to be had. Maybe they just needed to be reminded. So start off with your policy. If you already have a policy and procedure around tuition, review it. Make sure that it is detailed enough and that it is something that you are going to feel comfortable. I say comfortable, but that you can enforce. Okay? Some of these conversations are not comfortable, but we're adults. We have those conversations, and they need to be had. Okay? So I've had a couple of conversations when I had to say, okay, well, there's a late fee because you were late. And don't you know, with most of the clients, you only have to have that conversation once. No one wants to pay more if they can avoid it. So at that point, that parent understood that there were consequences, that I was going to enforce the policy, and that there was going to be this consequence of a late fee if they were late again. And that never happened again. Not with that client. I'm not saying that that's going to be your experience, but it is something that I'm sure all of us will agree has got to be enforced. It's got to be under control, and I hope that you don't have to enforce it all the time. But if you implement some of those things that I was just suggesting, then it's very clear. I think you're making it clear to your clients that this is something that is going to be enforced here at this business, at this childcare. So I hope that answers your question, anonymous provider. I forgot to give you my question of the week. I have been starting off every episode with my question to you, and my question this week is, do you buy gifts for the kids and parents for Christmas? So if you're joining me here live, type in the chat. If you're joining me, if you catch this on replay, type in the comments and let me know. Do you buy for the kids and the parents, or do you just buy for the kids? Do you have the kids make some gifts for the parents as a project at your childcare? And we're going to get into some more questions around those issues. But let me know in the comments. Let me know in the chat if you purchase gifts for the kids. A lot of us do. Yeah, so just let me know. Maybe you have a limit. I set a limit for myself, and it was because I had a lot of children at my childcare. That can get really expensive. And I'll tell you a secret. I think I had like a $10 limit per child. And, you know, with the children being all different age groups, all different ages, it got kind of, hard to find a gift for that child for that age with this limit. But I got creative over the years, and I don't know if you have an IKEA near you or if you shop at IKEA, but stores like that typically have like a stuffed animal or something that's very reasonably priced. And I'll tell you what, I would score for most of the kids doing shopping there. And I know that one of the children still has one of the stuffed animals that they got one Christmas from me, and this is 5-7 years later, but I still still keep in touch with the family, and the mom says he still sleeps with it. And it's just cool to know that you don't have to spend a lot to show you care, and the kids appreciate it. Don't think that they won't appreciate it unless it's some expensive thing, if that's not something that you can afford or even want to do. Yeah, so anyway, we have a lot more questions around Christmas, so let me move on. Okay. By the way, if you have any advice for that provider about getting tuition on time, let me open my window here. Getting tuition on time and a policy and procedure around that, please go ahead and type that in the chat or type that in a comment, and I'm sure they'll appreciate it. I'd love to get your perspective on how you keep that under control. All right, so let's move on. All right. Next question says, hey, Adrienne, what do you suggest about days off around the holidays? Like, how much should I take? Do I charge? What is fair? Okay. So here's the thing. Like I said in the intro, this is your business. This is your business. So a lot of this is going to be up to you to figure out what works for you and your business. Now, that being said, if you are licensed, I'm in California, and all over the country, in different countries, the licensing situation is different, right? But when you got licensed, you more than likely had to indicate days that you were going to be closed. And so that can be a starting point right there. They might even mandate you to be closed on federal holidays. I don't know. Different states do different things. Different countries do different things. But that would be a good place to start, first of all. As far as being paid, most providers do require that tuition is still paid. It's considered a paid holiday or a paid vacation, however you want to look at it. And most employees, i.e. parents, get paid for those federal holidays as well. Now, I know things have changed over the years, so not all of the holidays are covered as far as, or do they get those off? But this is where you need to get specific for your business and what you're going to observe and what you're going to require. Now, another place to turn to for advice is to look at the schools in the school district that you're nearest and see what their days off, see what their holiday schedule looks like. And the reason why that's a good resource is because more than likely the children that leave your care at some point are going to go into the school system, and that's going to be their schedule, and so the parents are going to have to adapt to that. Well, if yours mirrors that schedule, then it shouldn't be a hard leap for them because they're going to have to figure it out anyway. So that's my advice as far as maybe getting some guidance as to your business specifically, where you're located, and what you want to do now. The other element of that is your personal life, your family life. Do you want to take off a week or two at Christmas time? And if you do, then put that into your holiday schedule. And like I said before, most providers do expect tuition to be paid for those days that they're closed. Now, some of us don't. I know that I've changed my policy many times over the years, trying to be fair, like she's asking here, but understand that there's different ways that you can approach this too. If you wanted to say that tuition wasn't expected, or limit that or something, or you could take what that tuition amount would be over those 2 weeks and incorporate that into your basic tuition and then spread it out over the year. So in other words, it winds up getting paid because they were paying it all year long. You could do something like that. So you might need to get creative. And I have another question that's coming up too about that, but it is going to be, for the most part, up to you. The provider asks, what do I charge? What is fair? Again, that's going to have to be, think about your obligations. Do you have staff? Do you have things that are going to continue to need to be paid during that time? And that's why I said maybe incorporate that paid time off in your base tuition so that it is covered. And however you need to set that up, then set that up that's best for your business. So I'm trying to see what the other question is. Okay, well, I'm just going to jump into it because it's perfectly aligned with this. There was a question that a provider shared with me that was actually asked by a parent. The parent, and I was trying to find Denitra Scott put it here. She said, how would you respond or support this parent? My 3-year-old's daycare is closed for 3 weeks during Christmas. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I don't have PTO to cover that much time. They said there are a few teachers available to babysit, but if I can't afford it, what would y'all do during this situation? It's insane. Okay, so thanks, Denitra, because she was the one who shared that with me. So you've got a parent that is saying they don't have time, they don't have vacation time or time off on their job to cover the amount of time that their childcare is closed during the holidays. 3 weeks is what she's saying here. And I think that the childcare is still expected payment for those 3 weeks. And although they did provide that there were some teachers that would be willing to babysit during this time, this parent would need to incur the tuition fee and the replacement care fee, the teachers to babysit, okay, for 3 weeks. So basically, her childcare for the month of December, if you are doing the math with me, is doubling. That can be tough. Now, I said before, and I mean it, I know that we do a lot. And I'm also a big proponent of us taking the time off that we need to rest and recuperate, because we work long hours. I'm talking about childcare providers. We work long hours under what can be stressful conditions at times, and we don't have enough time to rest and recoup. I realized many years into my business that I was just about working on or for my business every day of the week, because I was going grocery shopping, or I was buying supplies, or something, or heading to a sale, a garage sale or something, for the business. Make meal planning, all this stuff, and it was like I had no downtime, none. And that can be stressful. It can lead to burnout and overwhelm, as I'm sure I don't need to tell you. However, so I really, really can't say enough, and I can't stress enough the time that you need to give yourself grace, to not have to think about your business, to change your weekly schedule or whatever, so that you are not in that place where I was. In this situation, there's a couple things I'll say, and I know that there's going to be some providers that disagree with me, and if you disagree with me, please feel free to put it here so we can discuss it. I'm not the only provider in the room, but there's a couple things I have to say about this. As far as 3 weeks off, I would say, just like I was saying earlier about the tuition issue, I would advise my clients when they enrolled that this is the schedule during the holidays, so that presumably they didn't just enroll last month. When they enrolled, they were aware that they needed to find backup care because of the holiday schedule. Okay, that especially because it's such a long. It's almost a whole month of it's almost a whole month of December that this parent's childcare is closed. That deserves a heads up. Like I was doing earlier with the planner and saying send out reminders, that deserves a much earlier heads up, like at the time of enrollment, like putting it in your newsletter, like giving them notice a couple of months in advance. And here's why. Providers are going to come for me and say, I've already told them, they already know what's up, they need to figure it out. And that's true. They do need to figure it out. Here's the thing. If they can't figure it out, what does that mean? Because sometimes we have to think ahead, okay? Because if you're that parent and you can't figure it out and you have to move them to another childcare, does that mean you might lose this client? And if you're fine with that, if you have a waiting list and you don't have a problem with that, then more power to you. But I think, just like I was saying earlier about the different things I did to mitigate my tuition late payment problem, there are some things that you could do that hopefully will help you retain that client. Okay? I'm trying to keep my screen from going to sleep. And one of them would be at enrollment to let them know, if that's your plan, to have your child care closed for that period of time. Something else that I did, and this is not for everyone, but I, at the beginning of the year, give my clients a list of all of the holidays for the whole year. In other words, specific to that year. So we're going into 2024. They will receive a list of all the 2024 holidays specifically, this Monday, that date, blah, 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 so that they can put it up. And I had mine made. It took me a while to get to this point, but I had mine made into a magnet, and I'll leave a link for you to go over and see if that's something you want to do. We do have it in our shop now, but it's a magnet that has all of the major holidays on the magnet, so they can put it up at work, they can put it up in their kitchen, on the refrigerator, so that, again, they've been notified that the childcare will be closed on these days. Now, again, I know that that's not for everyone. I know if you don't want to go to that level of getting a magnet and giving it out, I would give it out in my Christmas cards to the family. So I didn't buy gifts for the parents. I bought gifts for the kids. But for the parents, I did give them a Christmas card, and in the Christmas card was this magnet. So it was something that I put in my marketing budget to do, because for me, that was a real, I wanted to make sure that I did give adequate notice to my clients to maybe avoid any of these issues. Maybe if they were reminded back in August that in December the child care is going to be closed for 3 weeks, it may have given them enough time to come up with a solution. Now, kudos to this child care for one thing, because they are trying to provide a solution, and that is to say that they must have already worked out with their teachers to be available to babysit. So they are trying to give parents an option to help them with this closure and the time that they're still going to need care. And so they deserve kudos for that. I will say that I had several situations over the years where my close network of childcare provider friends would reach out to me, or I to them, to say, hey, I'm going to be closed on this day, or I'm going to be closed this week. Do you have spots available? Would you be open to taking my client for a week? And I've done that. I've done that for a couple of providers in my network. And that was so helpful to the parents, because they were able to get a referral to another provider that this provider recommended, that their provider recommended. And I can't remember, I do believe that they may, or I'm not sure. I don't know if they had to pay tuition there and with me. And I know that there were a couple of times we worked that out on a case-by-case basis, maybe half, I don't know. But that's something else you can do. And I would suggest setting up those relationships before the holidays. I mean, you can probably do that now. You can probably reach out to another provider in your area and see if they'd be open to that. Of course, you want to make sure that boundaries aren't crossed, that they're not trying to recruit that client away from you. And so you want to make sure that you use some ethical behavior here, and it's somebody that, you bring that up to. This would be for a temporary basis. You want to decide if you want them to sign a temporary contract with you. You want to make sure that that provider provides their file so that you have all the child's information and records at your location, should you ever need that. So there's some different things that you can do, because 3 weeks is a long time. I wish I was off 3 weeks. That would be awesome. But think of your clients. How would that work? Like I said, I think giving them the earliest heads up on something like that is probably the best move, and will probably maintain that or retain that client, or have the best chance of retaining that client. But think of helping them find solutions to it, and maybe you're helping them find a solution is just to let them know early on that this is what's happening. So just like I was talking about that magnet that I had, I would definitely put on that magnet, we are closed 3 weeks in December from this date and this date, so that they can plan all year how they're going to cover that. Okay, so that's something that I think sometimes we forget as providers. because we do a lot. We do a lot. We're taking advantage of a lot. I will absolutely agree with that. I will. But you are running a business, and for as best as we can, we don't want to repel the very clients that we need for our business. And we want to be seen as, not an adversary, not a problem, right? And again, I can totally respect if you don't feel like I do. Please leave a comment and let me know what you would tell this, what you would do in this situation with this parent saying, I don't have enough time, I don't know what to do, I can't maybe afford to pay a teacher on top of paying tuition. What would you do? What would you do in your business? What would you tell your client in this situation? Okay? All right, I'm going to move on to the next question. This is all, a lot of the questions today are about the holidays and how to handle them in your childcare business. So the next question says, I'm looking for some advice here, Adrienne. What would you say about childcare gift obligations? Do I have to make crafts? I'm really feeling overwhelmed for the holidays. Do I have to make a big dinner for the kids? Do I have to make crafts for the parents from the kids? What should we make for parent gifts from the kids? Okay, so let's start with this. I've said this several times in this one episode. This is your business. This is your business. Okay? You don't have to do anything but stay compliant with licensing and do things that help sustain your business. All right? Like get tuition on time. When it comes to the holidays, a lot of us, not just the people who, have a childcare, but a lot of us get overwhelmed. And if you're in any of the groups like I am, you see all of the pretty projects that they've made, and you might feel like you're coming up short and you're not doing enough and it's not good enough what you're doing. That is false. That's false. Because if you're providing quality care and a loving, nurturing environment for the children in your care, you are doing enough. Okay? And some of the things that I brought up in this episode and that I'm probably about to say, it took me years to get to that. It took me years to realize, oh, I could do that. Or let me try this and see if this helps. Okay? So even when it comes to holiday projects and gifts, I said earlier, I purchase gifts for the kids, not the parents. You don't have to purchase gifts for the kids. Okay? Maybe you want them to make the gifts that they take home, and that will be from the childcare. Okay? So maybe setting up a day where it's called Santa's Workshop, and we're all going to make gifts that we're going to take home, and that's the project. So with places like the dollar stores, Michael's craft stores, you can find even at Target over in the dollar bins, you can find project parts that the kids can make at the daycare, and maybe it's an ornament. Maybe it's an ornament that they can hang on their tree, and it's going to be something that they keep for a really, really long time, and that's going to be their gift from the childcare. If you don't have the budget to do that, maybe you sit one day and cut out a bunch of little ornament shapes yourself out of craft paper or construction paper or whatever you have on hand, and then you have them decorated one day. That's what they're going to do at Santa's Workshop. I have a Cricut. I love my Cricut. When I found out, I used to get hand cramps from cutting out all the stuff for the projects, especially this time of the year. And when my assistant told me that there was this machine called the Cricut, and this is years ago. This is when it first came out. I begged my husband to get that for me for Christmas, and I have had one ever since. And I'll just tell you, you can make the components of crafts and projects in minutes for multiple kids. You can even have gifts that you can make out of the Cricut. I'll leave a link so you can go and check out the Cricut if you've never heard of it, or if you want to learn more about all that it can do. But it can be an amazing help, especially this time of the year. But don't feel like you have to do certain things to keep up, or that your childcare isn't good enough if you don't have this fabulous project. It took me years to even get the Cricut, right, that I was just talking about. And something real quick before I get into another suggestion that another provider friend had, but something that I do after, or I try to do after each holiday, especially the Christmas holiday, or the winter holidays, right, like Thanksgiving and Christmas, is to write a note to myself for next year. Like, let's say you had the best idea and it was the day after Christmas, but you had the best idea for a craft for Christmas for the kids. Write a note to yourself so that next year, when you are absolutely frazzled and you can't come up with ideas, you can look back and say, oh yeah, I wanted to do this. And you can keep it on your computer, you can keep it on your phone. If you see it out someplace, take a picture of it, keep it in a separate little album on your cell phone. But leave breadcrumbs to yourself so that you you eventually get to the point where you have pictures you want to show in these groups. Look what I did. I mean, one of the, and I brought it up, I think I brought it up last week. One of the most favorite projects I had was, I had a notion that we could make life-size gingerbread people. And so I was like, how can I do this? And I went to the dollar store and I got the brown craft paper. It's perfectly colored for a gingerbread man. And my sister and I would have the kids laid down and we would trace around them, but it would be in the shape of a gingerbread man. And then they got to decorate the gingerbread person. And I remember that one to this day. And that was many years ago. But I was just so excited that it came out the way I wanted. We then used the gingerbread people to decorate the walls with and everything. And they got to take it home. So there's so many things that you can do, but I don't want you to feel the pressure to overspend, to rack your brain and stress your level, bring your stress level up at this time of the year. You do not have to have a dinner. You do not have to have the kids make crafts for their parents. You don't have to feel like you have to have a craft every day. You don't. You absolutely don't. If you can afford it, if something you want to do, then by all means do it. But don't feel like you have to. You have to. The kids would appreciate a Christmas story. Sit down and we're gonna read Christmas stories all day, or this week we're gonna have a new Christmas story every day, and then ask the kids about their favorite character. Another suggestion that a provider friend of mine had was to have a movie and PJ day. So I think she said they're gonna watch The Grinch and have the kids come in their pajamas. And you could be wearing your pajamas too. That would be so much fun. And that doesn't cost you anything. And, it's going to give you something to talk about next week. And maybe you can have some coloring and have them draw a picture of the Grinch, or maybe have a conversation about what the Grinch's problem was. But these are all, low cost and low stress things that you can do that the kids are going to love and remember. We think that Christmas, or not all of us, but sometimes we can think that Christmas is all about the gifts. And gifts are nice, but I have found, and tell me if you agree with me or not, it is the moments that we share that are more precious than some gift that 1,000 other people have. Okay? So put your thinking cap on. I know you can come up with ideas that would not be stressful for you, would be fun for the kids, and would still allow a great time at the childcare at this time of the year. Do not feel like you have to do anything. If it's something you don't want to do, don't do it. That's just, it's not even going to be fun, okay? If you're stressed and you don't want to do it, okay? All right, I'm going to move on because it's getting late in the episode. Okay, what would you say to that provider? Do you feel the pressure? Do you get overwhelmed this time of the year? And if you do, how do you deal with that? What do you do? Do you reel it back in and say, you know what, I'm going to do one thing every week, or I'm going to, take it very low key this year? What do you do at your business, in your childcare this time of the year? Because we all know that it can get crazy. Okay. All right, now, back to what I was about to say. It is giveaway time. So this week, you can get, there's a double giveaway, if you will. So first of all, we have the holiday telephone memo. So you can go over and get this download. It is free for you. There's a link already in the chat where you can just go over and download that, and that's going to help you the rest of the month. If you get calls from prospective parents or drop-ins, and you need to capture this information, you have this memo to help you out. So go over and download that. And then the second part of this week's giveaway is that the provider, planner, and organizer, we have a giveaway that if you purchase your planner this week, then you get put in a drawing to get the essentials pack of planner accessories, my favorite planner accessories. So if you buy your planner this week, go over and check it out. There's a link in the chat. Then you get put in a drawing for the giveaway of the essentials accessory pack that is it's just gonna take your planner to the next level. So go ahead and check that out. But yeah, the links are already in the chat. So yeah, we have a double giveaway. All right, let's get into the last question for today. Okay, so this question says, hey Adrienne, got a quick one for you. So here's the scoop. A family's got this subsidized program thing, but they're only approved for Monday to Thursday. Now the mom's asking if she can bring her kiddo on Friday because they missed Monday. Can I do this? Can I just roll with this, or does she need to ring up the program first? Any thoughts or advice? Thanks a bunch. First of all, for those of you who have subsidized families, and that's how they pay for their child care, what do you do? Have you been in a situation where they wanted to switch days or alter the schedule that's approved from the program? How do you handle that? Is that something that you do in your business? For myself and my business, even non-subsidized clients, I shy away from switching days. Now, I won't say that that's an absolute. I will say that it's done on a case-by-case basis. But I had part-time families in my program. We have part-time and full-time. And you know that most of the holidays are on Monday. So if that family's, one of their part-time days was on Monday, then I would routinely get them asking me, oh, well, they didn't come on Monday. Can they come on, another day of the week? And over the years, I changed with this because I realized that that's not something I wanted to do. And so I came up with a policy that we don't switch days. Now, again, case by case but this was my policy. So if there was an exception, it was an exception to the policy. But the reason I did that is because, first of all, most of the holidays are on Monday. So this is going to happen every single time there's a holiday. Secondly, it would affect my ratios. And I had to maybe make sure I had enough coverage, my assistant or myself, on another day that I typically didn't have to, right? Because they wanted to switch days. And lastly, I would say that the holiday, and I put this in my policy, or I put this in the memo that I send out to my clients when I made the policy, was to say that holidays were an opportunity to rest and recoup and not necessarily double up on my work later in the week. Okay? So, in other words, they needed to look at that when they set up their schedule, their part-time schedule. Okay? Like I said, it's no shock to anyone that most of the holidays fall on Monday. So they needed to take that into think about that when they set up their schedule. Take that into consideration, because just because they didn't want to feel like they were missing out on a day did not mean that I was obligated to change days. So that's something that I changed in my own business. So it's something you need to think about. Now, when it comes to the subsidized families, I am almost certain that they need to get that cleared through the program that they're at. I am almost certain that they need to get that cleared. But it sounds like in this situation, they're saying for some reason they didn't come on a day when they were supposed to come, and now they want to come on because they missed a day. They want to come on Friday. For myself, I would not want to do that. It's probably going to create more paperwork for you. Like I said, with the program, presuming it's okay with them. And if you didn't even want to ask them, then this sounds like something that this parent is going to be requesting all the time for whatever reason that they didn't come on Monday or the day that they didn't come. So that's something to consider. Is this going to be an ongoing? Are you setting a precedent for this to be an ongoing thing? Right? So consider that. Is it something that you want to do? That's a really good barometer right there, or test. When you are making an exception or you're changing something, think about it this way. Is this something that potentially you would want to do all the time moving forward? And if it isn't, then maybe you want to take some time, give yourself space and time to think about whether or not you should do it this time. Because if you do it this time, is this client going to expect you to do it again and again and again and again? So this is the first time is when you need to really be paying attention as to whether you want this, you want to do this moving forward as well. And that's not something I would have thought about early on. I would have thought, oh, yeah, no problem. Well, they're going to think it's no problem next time too. So think about that. Is that something you want to say? Is that the impression you want to give? And it's not being harsh. It's setting the tone for your business moving forward. Okay? I'm going to check over here, make sure I didn't miss any comments. I don't think I did. Okay. I think we're good. All right. So that's what I would say. I would say if you're going to go by the what probably should happen in this situation is that they should probably check with their program. But if it's not something you want to do, then there's no need for them to check with the program. You can say, no, that's unfortunately we don't switch days, or unfortunately, because again, it could affect just it. Sometimes we want to please the parents and we don't even think it all the way through ourselves. What else is it going to affect? Maybe it's just that you don't want to do that, or you're tired and you're overwhelmed. I would not want to pile onto my Friday, because I know usually by Thursday I am fried. I'm tired. So just because a parent missed Monday for whatever reason, that doesn't obligate me to add them onto Friday. Now, again, I'll say this and then I'll stop, but you might want to look at it on a case by case basis, like I was saying, because maybe there's a doctor's appointment or an immunization or something that they needed to handle on a day, and it wouldn't be a problem for you to switch days. But if you come up with the policy that works for you, then you can inform your client so that they can work around that. Okay, so that they understand, well, if you miss Monday, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to switch to another day during the week. And it's not you being mean. It's just practical. Okay. Think of other businesses. If you went to the doctor, I missed my doctor's appointment on Monday. I had to call and reschedule. Luckily, I was able to reschedule for the following day, but that doesn't always mean that. I missed that appointment on Monday. That was my bad. And they could have said, well, Adrienne, we don't have another opening until January, the end of January. And it would be, that's what it is. So sometimes we need to think about what other businesses would do, and think whether that's applicable in our business, and really give ourselves some space and time, and not just always want to have this people-pleasing mindset. And I say that because I was definitely there. I definitely had that syndrome myself, but I realized that it wasn't doing anybody any good, least of all me. Okay, so that was the last question for today. Remember, if you have a question that you want to ask and you can't make the show, or you want to leave it early so that I can make sure that I address it on next week's show, then you can go to thrivingchildcare.com/what's-your-question. That's thrivingchildcare.com/what's-your-question, and I will make sure that your question is answered next week on the show. Remember, we're here every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, I want to thank you for joining me here today. I hope that your holidays are not stressful, and that you're enjoying the time with the children, and that you do schedule some time off to have that downtime that we were talking about in this episode today. So, I'm your host. I'm Adrienne Bradley, and I can't wait to continue this journey with you next week. But until then, keep thriving. See you next Wednesday. Hey, thanks for joining me today. And listen, if you're vibing with the Daycare Q&A Show, guess what? You're in for an absolute treat when you dive into the Not Just for New Providers Club. You're going to love all of the courses, resources, and support you'll find inside our membership just for childcare owners. Our courses, workshops, resources, and services are designed to help you create the thriving childcare business you dream of, without all of the overwhelm of feeling like you're on this childcare journey alone. It's like our secret hangout for all of us amazing childcare enthusiasts, and I'm your enthusiastic guide. Forget about those never-ending, mind-boggling mega module trainings or programs that leave you feeling like you've just run a marathon without any real direction. We're all about keeping it simple and steering clear of those overwhelming processes. Instead, we're here to help you set up actionable business systems that practically run on autopilot, giving you more time to binge watch your favorite TV shows, or maybe just catch up on some well-deserved sleep. As an extra bonus, you'll also get instant access to our childcare template subscription, our ever-growing template library designed to make running your business smoother than a baby's bottom. Curious? Well, here's the best part. You can test the waters with our $7 one-week trial. Click the link in the comments and grab your trial membership today. Let's dive into childcare awesomeness together. I'll be waiting to high-five you on the inside. See you there.